Of this day in Black baseball history. Of course, this is the November 9th, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Okay, now, in case you've never joined me before, you've never seen me before, you're not a subscriber, what I do is I come on and I give you historic facts that happened on this day in Black baseball history, and then I give you commentary that comes from my 45 plus years of being a historian on this topic. So if this is your first time joining, just know, guys, I don't have any dancing girls in my background here, and I do not tell a bunch of funny jokes and doing funny things so you can get a laugh. Bringing you some straight out history, some straight out information that you can use. Hey, it's good stuff. So this is Phil Dixon. I'm an author, a historian, and once again, I've got lots of experience in this topic. So let's jump right in to this November 9th, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. All right, so let's start off with the November 9th, 1935. Now, I usually do a coming and a going, so I'm going to do this one right off the bat because I think you need to know this. Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Gibson is born in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Bob Gibson was a great one, And I don't know how much you know about baseball, but if you think that you're a baseball fan and you never heard the name Bob Gibson, guys, you need to drop everything you're doing and go online. You can Google it, go to Yahoo, whatever search engine you use. You can go to AI, and you're going to get lots of good information on Bob Gibson. I had a chance to meet Bob Gibson on numerous occasions. I remember one of the occasions was we were at a Kansas City baseball card show, and he was appearing there, and Buck O'Neill and Connie Johnson that came as my guest. And I had a book called the Negro Baseball Leagues of Photographic History, and in that book there was a picture that said, "This is Buck O'Neill talking to Bob Gibson before he had joined with the Cardinals." And Gibson looked at the picture and he said, "That's not me." Buck said, "That is you." He said, "No, it's not me." He said, "It's another guy." And he couldn't remember the guy's name. He said, "That's not me." And Buck said, well, "That's you." And, they went back and forth. Gibson saying, "That's not me." Buck saying, "That's you." And it was kind of interesting. But the picture was appeared in my book. And you can see that picture if you ever get one of my publications. So I thought that was an interesting banter back and forth of who that guy is. Now, the interesting thing is, Gibson never was able to give a name. All he could say was, "That's not me." So that's interesting. But he was signed by the St. Louis Cardinals. This guy also played basketball too, and so he was quite the basketball player. And there's a good book about the Omaha African American community that he was raised in. I have it somewhere here. Over the years, I've presented many times in Omaha, and Omaha has a great African American baseball history. And so that's where Gibson came through. And so it's just wonderful to talk about some of these things. I'll have to dig that book out, maybe talk about it a little bit more, because some of these publications, guys, people just don't know they exist. And I'm always looking for, interesting things to read. And when I go to these places, I always ask, say, what's a good history book about, say, maybe the community Gibson came from? And then they'll show you things and they'll tell you about other things. And then I used to order those books. So got quite a collection of books. And so when it's time I have to show you, I have literally walls of books. And I'm one of these people who feature my books, and I feature them prominently. So, but anyway, that's Bob Gibson. Just want to do that, jump right out front, let you know about Bob Gibson, Hall of Famer, just a great all-around pitcher. How about this? He liked to finish everything he started. So this guy has a ton of complete games. Him and Ferguson Jenkins, just in modern day, they just never left the mound. They just get out there and keep playing, keep pitching. Not like the guys today. It's a whole different era of baseball. So, all right then, let's go to November 9th, 1940. Halfback Jackie Robinson, playing on a muddy turf at Los Angeles' Haywood Field before 8,000 fans, finished with 24 yards and gain, and also threw an interception. is Oregon defeated UCLA 18-0. So that's Jackie Robinson, the great Jackie Robinson in baseball. He's also a great football player, was a track guy, and played basketball. Played all these sports at a very high level. And we just know him from baseball, but there's much more to Jackie Robinson. Also, most people know this now, but I can remember a time when they didn't know this, that in 1945, he played for the Kansas City Monarchs. And of course, he joined the Monarchs after spending some time in Fort Riley, Kansas. And if you go down to the museum on the in Fort Riley, and that's down where the big red one is, and it's a tremendous military base. I've been down there and have presented to the officers on that base. They have a wonderful museum, and there's a great picture of Jackie Robinson and Joe Louis at Fort Riley when they were serving in the military during World War II. Great picture, and it's in the museum. And I do have that. I've never featured it in a book, but I definitely know the picture. And hey, who knows? I'll have to write something on Robinson and feature sometimes. All right. So let's go to another. November the 9th, 1947. Playing before 2,000 fans, the Kansas City Royals. Now, this is not the Kansas City Royals in the American League. This is the Kansas City Royals of the California Winter League. Now, it's interesting that that name Kansas City Royals is associated with the Kansas City team long before the American League team was created in 1969. So the Kansas City Royals lost a 5-2 game to the minor leaguers at Los Angeles Wrigley Field. Satchel Paige hurled 4 innings and allowed 1 hit and whiffed 4. And Kansas City Monarchs Gene Richardson and Black Baron Jimmy Newberry also pitched. And so actually I have some great pictures of Gene Richardson that came from my cousin, because they used to hang out with Gene Richardson when he was with the Kansas City Monarchs. And actually one of my cousin's good friends married Kirk Roberts. And so I have some of those pictures too. And these are like just pictures that are like taken in people's homes and just interesting stuff. Of course, Satchel Paige is one of the most photographed African-American baseball players going back to, I guess, when he started playing. Mostly during the 1930s, lots of pictures of Satchel Paige. I always talk about the athletes that I think, African-American athletes, were the most photographed, and especially pre-integration. And I'd have to say it was Jack Johnson, Satchel Paige, and Joe Louis. I would think that those were quite a few. Jesse Owens has a number, but I don't think it equals anything close to what Satchel Paige or Jack Johnson or Joe Louis had. So maybe there's somebody else maybe I'm forgetting, but if they are, just throw that name in there, okay? So here we go. I've got just 2 more, and then we're going to be out of here. November 9th, 1950, Sweetwater Clifton, one of the first African Americans, the National Basketball Association, is called a lemon by area media after the Indianapolis Olympians inflicted an 85-73 beating on the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Clifton sank 3 goals in 14. Also, he made 3 of 9 free throws for a total of 9 points on the day. And so, guess what? This guy, a few days earlier, I guess on November the 5th, when he became the first black man to play in the NBA, I think he dropped about 16 that night, 14 to 16 points. So he has a bad night, and all of a sudden, he's a lemon. This guy was no lemon. He stayed in the NBA for a number of years. Outstanding player. And Sweetwater Clifton, I spent a lot of time on him in the last 4 or 5 days because I want you to know that name. I interviewed Sweetwater, and he was in Chicago, and this was the early, this might have been maybe late 80s, and he was driving a cab. And I even have his cab number somewhere around here. So Sweetwater Clifton, man, that's a great nickname. They said he got the nickname Sweetwater because he loved to drink soda pop as a kid. So Sweetwater. Okay, Sweetwater Clifton, 6'7". Yeah, great player. All right. Okay, so the last one, I'm just going to throw out here something because we got to talk to some of these guys who maybe saw him play, if you're young enough. November 9th, 1962, Deion James, outfielder for the Milwaukee Brewers, 1983 to 85, the Atlanta Braves, 1987 to 89, the Cleveland Indians, or who are the Guardians now, 1989 to 1990, and the New York Yankees, 1992 to 1920, not 1920, 1993. So 1992, 1993 is born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. How many of you had a chance to see Deion play? Man, he was everywhere, right? But he's one of those players that we need to talk about these guys because, once again, when you think of great African American baseball players, they didn't just stop. How about this? They didn't start when Jackie Robinson came. They were there before, and they've been there since Jackie Robinson left. So I like talking about all these guys. So anyway, that about does it for November the 9th. I will tell you something. I was going to read you something, and I thought you might find this interesting. This came from a November 11th, 1939 article written in the Pittsburgh Courier. And Cumberland Posey, who was the owner of the Grays, had a column, and he would pen things periodically and try to find interesting things about baseball players that people would want to read about because hey, if it's not interesting, people are not going to buy the paper. So anyway, he mentioned that Joe Williams, Cyclone Joe Williams, was very ill in New York, and they said he had pneumonia, but he said Joe had a remedy, and so Joe's remedies for colds or even for a sore arm were as follows. Okay, he had 3 chunks of rock candy. Now I remember rock candy because I remember my father. There was a guy, he was a root doctor. He would come to our house in the wintertime. Now, when I was born in 1956, my father was 49 years old. So it was a guy, he went to our church, Mr. Cotton. He would come over and stay with us about a week. And he was what they call a root doctor. And so he would have all these roots and tree bark and stuff like that. And they would make medicine. Then they put it in old liquor bottles. And then they would sell it. And I think one time I had a cold, I took some of this stuff. And man, I tell you what, my cold went away instantly. It was just incredible. I don't know what they were making in there, but it definitely had rock candy, and they would melt it down. And so anyway, so I could relate to that. So Joe Williams said, this way he would take 3 chunks of rock candy, 3 drops of turpentine. Now turpentine is interesting because turpentine was used for a lot. And turpentine came for the most part out of North Carolina. There's a great history about African Americans working in turpentine fields in North Carolina. Okay, and then he would take 3 tablespoons of glycerin mixed with a half pint of bonded whiskey. And that's some powerful stuff. And he would take that all in one dose. And Posey said, Joe and his 220 pounds of muscle could do this, but we don't recommend it to any of his friends. That's interesting. And so the things you learn when you start digging in this history and reading around is just simply amazing. I didn't know Cumberland, but I knew his daughters. I interviewed them several times, and Cumberland was just an amazing person. The only person that I know that is in both the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and in the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame as well. And there's lots of multi-sports athletes, so looks like maybe we have some work to do because there's some other people that should be in more than one Hall of Fame. I think about Joe Lillard. He should be in the Football Hall of Fame, and I don't know, maybe not the Baseball Hall of Fame, but certainly he needs to be recognized somewhere. Joe Lillard was another name. Wu Fang Ward, Harry Wu Fang Ward. Like talking about him. That's a great nickname, the Wu Fang Ward. So lots of good stuff out here, guys. So I'm going to about wrap it up now. It looks like I'm going to be getting out here about 16 minutes, which is kind of short for me. I do want to say hello to a few people because I'm watching. And I will tell you guys, if you came on and you just stayed for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I appreciate that. If you're catching my broadcast later on, I appreciate you, listening to it for however long you do. Without your support, it's no reason for me to even do this. There's no reason for me to even try to write a book without somebody reading it, right? So hopefully you guys been listening to some of the things I'm saying. So somebody said, I don't know what his name. I'm watching you, Hugga, Haga. That's a kind of interesting name online. Anyway, says hello. I appreciate you joining. And there's Logan Lovato. Lovato says hello. And there's Jimmy H. Jimmy needs to be getting out of here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna remove Jimmy. All right. Okay. And then we got Tyron Young, and then we got Kim Bella, Bellew, Bella, and they put 67. Not sure what the 67 means. So anyway, I think if that's correct, I've been hearing 67 means nothing. So anyway, guys, I do want to thank you guys for joining in. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit that subscription button, and we'll keep this going. We'll keep this conversation interesting, and we'll keep having a great time. And as you can see, I'm having a great time because I'm talking about baseball. And hey, this is not the kind of stuff you're going to get on ESPN. I'm not analyzing a game. I'm taking you back, and I'm not just talking about somebody who pitched in the American National League. I'm talking about guys, some of them you've never heard of before, but you should have heard of them. And my job is to make sure that in the future you do hear them. So thanks for joining, and you guys have a nice day. I appreciate that. This is Phil Dixon signing off for now with This Day in African American Baseball History, the November 9th edition.